So, as I was, or after I was watching this episode, I think it was a very great episode. It was, I obviously love the fight between Shadow and Beatrix and Iris, and like I kind of predicted in my last time I did a video on this, that you could see that even after the fight, Iris was, distraught because she couldn't even beat Shadow with the help of the war goddess, and on top she had, a very powerful artifact with her, and she still couldn't beat him. And on top, to make things worse, it looked like Shadow was fighting or beat Iris and the war goddess, with ease. And one thing I wanted to bring up while they were fighting was that we saw Sid kind of use or replicate an attack move that we saw earlier in the season. That was it seemed like he copied the attack move when he would find the witch, and the witch used it, which was the manipulation of things. So it looks like he was able to replicate it and use it as the drone, like he used it on the water, and he kind of controlled the water to I guess attack Irish or whatever. But I'm seeing the one thing I could grab onto, or the one thing I did notice, was that the limit on, or that might be one of his powers, to replicate attack that he has either seen or he has experienced. But one thing I did want to bring up on this was that it looks like the limitation on one of his powers is that he cannot fully control. He has to, if he wants to master it himself, he has to, work hard for it. Like, keep on practicing with that move. He just can't automatically, copy that move and automatically, master it. He obviously has to practice, but that was the only limitation I saw on that specific power of replicating attacks. But I mean, other than that, I just really like this episode because of its, obviously the battle between Iris and the war goddess teaming up against Shadow. It was obviously a really good fight. I really loved it. But the other reason I did love this episode was because we also got a lot of things to ask, or a lot of things that was dissected in this episode before it ended. So one was obviously Rose. She joined Shadow Garden at the offer of Alpha. We saw in that alley. That was one. The other one was that towards the end, when Alpha was taking Rose to to where their base is, we saw the base, and Alpha says, the ancient civilization named Alexandria, and there was, we saw a big statue, and a civilization pretty much. And I just wanted to kind of bring that up, because what if that ancient civilization was wiped out by the modern day cult of Diablos? And what if this ancient civilization also made the artifact? Because all we know about the artifact is that it was made, in the ancient times. So I'm guessing the ancient civilization is responsible for making these artifacts. But moving on, we also saw a brief scene with Sherry. I know we haven't seen her a lot, but we saw this scene with Sherry. It looked like she was in a dark room, and all over her room she had posters plastered of Shadow's wanted poster, and she's obviously obsessing over him, and she wants to kill him. And the reason I want to mention Sherry is because, one, obviously we didn't see her this whole time since, that time at school. But the other reason is because I also have kind of a theory about her that I'll probably share at the end of this video, so I guess keep on listening. The other thing I wanted to mention was that Shadow Garden is going to, the Lawless City. We saw Epsilon, her two assistants, and it looked like Delta. They were on the way to investigate the Lawless City, and it looks like the Lawless City is responsible for most of the things that happened in the cult's name. So they're just on the way to investigate that. I just thought I would mention it for, possible season 2, or to confirm that that would be the main arc, the Lawless City arc, but we'll see more on that later. The, the other thing was that we got a brief scene where Lord Perv is seemingly reporting to either his superior or one of the superiors that works in the Lawless City, with the cult. So there's, we saw Lord Perv kind of report to this superior in the cult, and he's obviously saying this is happening, but not to worry because this whole thing will happen, and kind of just reporting the situation and what's going to happen. And it looks like, Shadow Garden is aware of the cult or of the Lawless City or what's going on in the Lawless City. That's why they sent, Epsilon, her two assistants, and Delta to go investigate the Lawless City and, just report back on what they find in their investigation. But the reason I mention Lawless City a lot of times is because I think since Sherry's aim is to take down Shadow, I feel like either around season 2 or 3, whichever how many seasons this show goes for, I feel like she will ultimately, just become, work with them with the common goal of, of killing Shadow or destroying Shadow Garden. And that's one thing I am, curious about or cautious about Sherry, because we don't know what she's really working on, but we do know that she is a very talented, smart girl, and when she's obsessed with something, like let's say she's obsessed with researching this, something, I can only imagine what will happen to her when she's obsessed with someone, and on top, it's someone that she wants to kill. So I'm just very cautious of that, and I wonder how that will go with Sherry and the cult. But the last thing I did want to mention was towards the end, when we saw Shadow, it looked like he said, everything is going as I planned. So he knows, he probably is the one that told, Alpha to find Rose in the alley and offer her to either join us or, to fight on your own. And I just think it'll be a very interesting conversation when Rose finally, gets to know who Shadow really is, and that whole conversation I think will be exciting. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave it there. Obviously, I really love this episode with the fighting and everything that was dissected in this episode, and I hope you guys are still listening or whatever. But yeah, overall I think it was a pretty cool episode. Obviously there was a lot of things to dissect that fight, like I said, but pretty good episode, and can't wait for future episodes or season 2 when it gets announced. But overall, I think it was, like I said, I think it was a very good episode, but I think I'm just gonna end it there. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.